I am so glad I get to talk with you today. I want to keep talking to some other callers though, so let's do it. We're going to talk to Red, who's calling in from Ohio. Red, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hello. This was actually something that was prompted from a few weeks back on Truth Wanted, but I wasn't able to get onto the show with my call. I wanted to talk about how I used to believe in the Lochness monster and how it was the Leviathan of the Bible and Job.
Oh yes, please
Yeah.
tell me. Please tell me how you came to that conclusion, because I want to hear that.
I had weird little theories as a kid. I was big into science, and of course, I grew up conservative Christian. I was taught that in the sixth day creationism story. So I believe everything in the Bible was literary, even Leviathan. So I put two and two together when I was younger that the Loch Ness monster might be Leviathan of the Bible because they sounded similar to me when I read it. And not only did I believe that with other little weird theories, because I would look up all these little things on the internet about it. And I remember in the Bible saying how the Leviathan breathes fire. So then I would go through, make little theories on how it could breathe fire. And I actually remember drawing out like the Leviathan and Loch Ness monster and stuff. I believe that it had multiple chambers and acid with it that would react with each other to create the fire so it could breathe fire. And I remember showing this to actually I think it was somebody, a professor that worked at the Creation Museum, because my parents would take me and my brother to these homeschooling conventions, and there was one of them was having a presentation. I actually went up to him and showed him my theories, and he actually liked them. Of course, now I don't believe any of this, but it's something I look back on and laugh at from time to time.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I totally believe it. That reminds me of when I was a kid. I can't remember who was on TV, but like you're a kid and you're kind of flipping the channels and you're seeing what's on. And I remember there was this old, obviously fundamentalist pastor who was talking about the verse in Job. And if you're not familiar with Job, if you have ever heard the word Leviathan before, that actually comes from the Bible. It's from the book of Job, where there's just kind of this random description of this monster that's called Leviathan. It really doesn't have anything to do with the story, but they're trying to make like a metaphor, and they're saying, yes, like the Leviathan, it's very strong and very big. And it's like, if you don't know what that is, this is obviously like a made up monster. Like I don't know if that works as a very good literary device, but literary criticism aside, I remember seeing this guy saying, like, yeah, if you look at this, look, it says it has the tail of a cedar tree. Now, this can't be a hippo. This can't be an elephant because they don't have big tails. It has to be a dinosaur. And that's how we know that dinosaurs existed around the time of man, because what could this description be, right? And I remember asking my dad about this, like, hey, what do you think about this? And yeah, it's just, it doesn't really work out. It doesn't really work out with their understanding of history, right?
Yeah, and I think that was Kent Hovind that would do things like that too, and he talked about the behemoth.
Oh my gosh!
And yeah,
I used to watch him all the time when I was younger. My mom would put Kent Hovind on for me and my brother when we were younger. It's so weird now looking back and watching his videos now as an atheist.
Yeah, I bet. This is a side question, Red. I gotta know this. What is a homeschool convention like? What do you do there? Do you just talk about homeschool curriculum? Do you get to like hang out with other homeschool kids? Like what do you even do? Yeah. I don't even know what that would be.
That's literally it.
Okay. All right. Well, I guessed it.
They would have these panels and stuff. That's pretty much how it was. Looking back now, I think that probably would be pretty boring. But they did give out a lot of free candy, so I liked that part a lot.
Was this a homeschool convention like purely for homeschool, or was it like a secret like front for just creationism, like schooling and stuff?
That's probably what it was actually, because almost every booth was talking about like creationism in some way, but and then there's other booths that had a homeschooling Bible curriculum. It was, of course, it was all the booths were biblical based for homeschooling. Because of course, if it wasn't, my parents wouldn't take me. We actually went to several of these conventions. It was something that was a big part of my childhood that I remember going to. And they would have these panels that my parents would take us to, and we'd listen to the panel speakers talk about some bullcrap or another. I don't remember anymore. Probably for good reason.
Yeah, I was just thinking that reminds me of like it's like Comic-Con but for homeschool conventions. So instead of going around and meeting the artists, you're meeting the.
It's like that, but to say that it is a lot. It's a lot less cooler because I've been to Comic-Cons and I enjoyed them a lot more than I did the homeschooling convention.
Yeah, exactly.
I like someone who was there being like, yeah, it's actually not as cool though. Yeah. Like it's actually worse than you think. Oh man, that's funny. Like, you know, hey, I know at least one person who I respect very dearly who homeschools their kids. Okay. And if that's the choice you're gonna make and you think you can do it, I mean, shout outs to you. But I am not afraid to say I don't think most people who homeschool their kids should do it. I don't know. It seems like the curriculum kind of sus. If you're looking at like how dinosaurs lived amongst people and stuff, I think maybe a public school teacher is going to know more about, you know, what actually happened, right? But like that's what it seems to be. Like half of my friends that grew up homeschool, like it was a creationist kind of homeschooling curriculum, amongst other things. And they turned out all right, I guess, most of them. So
the funny thing about that is, if my mother didn't find a creation-based science book, she would specifically scratch out all the evolution parts it talked about, and she's like, "You don't need to learn that. That's all bullcrap, anyways. Just read what's not marked, scratched out." So yeah, that was my science education.
Well, that's good. Well, how's your science education now, Red? You believe the Earth is several billion years old? Okay, that's good. That's good. So you've at least changed that front. Well, thanks so much for telling that story. That's really, really funny, and I really like the putting together of the Loch Ness monster and the Leviathan. It's actually funny. The Loch Ness monster, one of the first reported sightings of it was, I believe, a saint from the Catholic Church that pointed out. Yeah, exactly. That pointed out that the monster was there in the first place. So if you want to point to some of the origins of the Loch Ness monster, actually the Catholic Church is doing it, if you think about it. So food for thought there.
I talked about it too on a video I made a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago. And it's funny that famous picture, they showed how it was made, like the guy who originally made it, and it's just like a toy submarine that he put like plaster on or whatever to make the head so that he could just like pull it through the water with a string. So it was very, very simple, very rudimentary.
Yeah. And it's funny that like the truth will exist for stuff out there, but it doesn't even matter. Like people will still believe it anyway. Now, granted, I imagine that the total population of believers in the Loch Ness monster is a lot smaller compared to other cryptids. Yeah. Like I think Bigfoot is king, right? I think everybody like Bigfoot's the big seller. Loch Ness monster is like the History Channel special that you kind of watch every once in a while, but like Bigfoot is king, I think, in that domain,
for sure,
right?
I used to believe in all the cryptids at some point or another.
I think if you're like under the age of 12, you just naturally have a belief. Yeah, like I remember believing in all the cryptids too. I just wanted it to be out there. I remember going to a camp here in Texas. Oh yeah, for sure. I was gonna say I remember growing up at a camp here in Texas where they talked about the goat man, which was like this man goat hybrid, obviously, and they showed us pictures of this thing. And now, like looking at it on Google Images, it's literally just a guy with a rubber goat mask. But as a kid, I just thought it was the scariest thing ever. And I remember not getting a lot of sleep that night thinking, oh man, what if the goat man just comes out and like tries to eat me? That was like my biggest worries at the time. Now it's like paying taxes and rent. So, arguably equally scary, if not more so.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Rad, thank you so much for calling in with that story. That was really entertaining. I really like that. So I hope you have a great rest of your night, and don't let the Loch Ness monster come around, see you catching catch you talking smack, right? Because I hear he gets angry about this kind of stuff.